All right. Hello. This is me, Edre, on my channel, Edre Reviews, and I'm going to be interviewing once again CherryHead. I interviewed them back in April, and yet we're still on all this lockdown stuff, so not that much has really changed. But so CherryHead is Jackson, Hannah, Anthony, and Nate. I'm pretty sure you could see their names on here. And I just want to start this off by asking, how have you been since the last time I spoke to you guys? Because even though it's only been like half a year, it feels like, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. So anybody could answer.
I've been okay for the most part.
New hair.
That is true. It's true. It's now back to being dark.
Back to black. So I guess that's a change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest change that's happened.
For this entire band, for sure.
My hair color.
It's not like you guys released an album or anything like that.
No,
not at all.
all.
Not at all. Only the hair color.
It was a lot of work, though. It was a ton of work. And we did the first session last December. So, last December, it was like 2 days before Christmas. It was Christmas Eve. So, been working on it for a long time.
Yeah, well, I was going to transition into talking about the new album, which has already been out for about a month now.
Mm-hmm.
This is as good as it's ever going to get. And I will say right off the bat, I thoroughly enjoyed the album, and I think it definitely paid off for like being all hyped up and waiting for it. I was very satisfied with it. And the first thing I wanted to talk about regarding the album is how was the process of making your first album different from recording an EP? Like, how was the studio different? Was the producing different? Like, how was the process different? Or was it?
Well, this time we did have a studio, so the EP was not a studio; it was a basement. But actually, we did 2 sessions at Sound Summit, and then our last session we actually finished the record in the basement again. So everything kind of came full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was nice because the production was a lot better quality, and I think. And, obviously because basement, studio, whatever. But I think Nick kind of understood what we were going for a little bit more and kind of had more tools able to, like, help us get to that point. And also I like some of the tricks that he was doing. I don't know. We had a lot of, like, very productive changes between the last one and this one.
Yeah, and I noticed that on the album in general, there was just I feel like there was a lot more stuff, like, that was, like, in a weird way, like, I feel like there were just little parts of it that because it was better produced at like a studio too, you got a lot more like details in there and a lot of that compared to the Bothered, like that. I forgot which song it was, but like there's like a voicemail thing in there on one track, and then it's like, and so like there's a lot of little things like that that show up throughout the album, which I think's very clever, that you probably wouldn't have just gotten if you did it all in your basement. But I did want to talk about the style of the album, because it is a bit of a shift in sound, and there's a lot of variety on the album as well. Like there are some songs like Season 2 kind of follows with like a sort of, I guess, a similar sound, but then you get a song like New Year's Resolution, which is like completely different and acoustic. So I guess like what I wanted to talk about there was like what influences and inspirations kind of caused this album to be sounding different from the Bothered.
Honestly, a lot of it was wanting to just try different things for the most part. Like with like Joyce or whatever, we decided to take like a far different route with the way that we wanted that to sound rather than like Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like songs like New Year's Resolution, it was nice to have a acoustic track on the album right before like the big outro, I guess. And Tension is more than an outro. Tension is fantastic, but it was like a calm before the storm. For New Year's resolution, like Anthony and I wrote that one a lot, and then Jackson did some fantastic lead work. I was listening to a lot of Lorde at the time. Lorde is really cool because she uses a lot of like gospel and a lot of voices together in her music, so that's what I was listening to at the time of that. And then season 2, I feel like it's just a throwback to The Bothered, but I mean, Jackson's the mastermind behind that one.
Yeah, no, I guess, yeah, season 2, I think, if I remember correctly, I believe we wrote season 2 around the time when we were finishing up The Bothered, so that's why that was so similar.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
joined the band like right before The Bother came out, and I remember season 2 being like the next thing that I learned after the EP.
Right.
Well, I did want to talk a little bit about New Year's resolution a bit, because I know you, Hannah, sing the vocals on that song, which is like the first. I believe it's the first time you sing lead vocals on a CherryHead song. So I was wondering, like, were you thinking about having Jackson sing it, but then you felt you had to sing it because it was a more personal song, and do you plan on singing more like songs in the future, like lead, or this what's going on?
No, yeah, I get you. Okay, so like what I personally, I write a lot of lyrics for this band. That's what I feel strongest because they're just amazing at their instruments. But I was gonna have Jackson sing it, but like reading the lyrics over, that song is very personal to me. It's more about like my experience opening up about, my depression, my struggles with my mental health. So I was like, I mean, I was trying to get Jackson to sing the lines, but then Jackson was like, you know what, you should do it. Like, he was very supportive, and I appreciated that. As for the future, I really don't know. I have been writing a lot more personal songs. I think it was really easy after that one released to open up, but I mean, we got three vocalists now, so we gotta see how that splits up.
Well, yeah, I definitely did think that song was probably one of the most like touching on the album. I really liked the way that one turned out, but just in general throughout the album, there's a lot of songs that do tone it down sometimes. Like there's like one of the things I really liked about the album was the fact that like my personal favorite song on the album is A Song For, because I love the way that it goes from being, more aggressive, but then the dynamics like really do tone it down a little bit, and I love the clean guitar tone, and I think Jackson sings that song great, which I guess leads me to a question with Jackson. I feel like your singing on this album is like even better than it was on The Bother, because I feel like you sort of experimented more with some songs, like you hit some pretty good high notes, other songs you sing softer and like more, I guess, calmly. But I definitely do think that was good. Was that just because you wanted to explore more, or was it just like you felt that singing it all one way just would be a bit too monotonous or anything like that?
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I got to experiment more because on The Bothered, I went into that, like when we started CherryHead and stuff, I was not, a singer. I didn't sing, I was a guitarist in like other bands and stuff, and I'd played, I'd done like backup vocals and whatever, but nothing too extreme, I guess. And so then I had to like go through the process of having to figure out what I sounded like, what I liked doing or whatever. And I feel like when we recorded The Bothered, there was not as much that I knew about that I could do, or I wasn't necessarily comfortable in certain ranges and stuff. And then working on it up to the lead up of this album, playing shows and stuff like that, getting prepared for this album. And when we went in, I found it a lot easier, and then I could, mess around with it a little bit more and put things that I felt like would make it sound different or make it sound, I guess, more us in there. And, that just kind of took time. It wasn't anything like, if I knew I could like do the things I could do now on the Bothered, I would have. But
Yeah.
it's good to have that shift, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think like overall, I just feel like it's like not that the Bothered is bad. I really enjoy the Bothered a lot, but I do think that there's a lot of improvement musically, a lot on this album too. There's a lot more, like I said, with the variation of sounds, and I just feel like the chemistry between all you guys is really strong on this album. Like a lot of the pauses and parts of songs that it sounds like a band that's been together and they know what they're doing more compared to maybe just a local band that gets together and jams. Like I feel like you guys just sound like a band who kind of went into it knowing what you wanted to do, sort of like once you started rolling. And I think it paid off. But I wanted to talk about a bit of like live stuff because by now I would have expected us to have live shows again, but we still don't. And I guess the first thing I was wondering, would you guys consider when there is live shows or doing it online, doing a full album show as like a, I know a lot of bands sometimes do that when they put out an album or an EP. Would you guys consider, or have you guys considered doing a show where you play the whole album front to back?
I mean, definitely. That's the one thing that we've been looking forward to. I mean, this album, there were times when we thought this album was going to come out in like February, but like it was all about the release show. I think we had such a good Bothered release show that I feel like we would do this for really any release. But yeah, we were definitely looking forward to it. But I thought the live stream went really well too. A lot of people showed up.
Yeah. And I guess with the live stream concerts, because I know that sometimes you guys use Instagram Live because that's a pretty easy way to do it. I know that, like, have you guys thought about doing, I mean, I personally, I think it would be cool to do maybe one on like through YouTube Live or like through other platforms like that. But I guess talking about set lists, one thing I was wondering about was now that you guys do have a full album out, when inevitably this eventually hopefully goes away and we do have shows again, I do think like do you think you're still gonna play a lot of the older songs you've done, or is it gonna be mainly focused on the newer stuff?
I don't know. I feel like we would play some old stuff. Like we'd have to. Because there's some favorites on the EP. I feel like we would have to play Poland Pound. Like that's like a must.
Poland, Monday, Stark, definitely. And then the other two are up for debate because those ones
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we don't have something, we just kind of
like,
we'll put them in.
You know,
I
you guys might never see social classes again, but you know.
Don't scare them.
I personally really like that song. I feel like I could say I like the EP songs a lot because I wasn't there for it, but I don't want to feel like a narcissistic and be like, yeah, socialism.
Yeah, Nate thinks that all of our songs are
Okay,
fucking
but
bomb.
because I didn't record on it, so I'm fine with it.
You're the drummer. You're fine. You have a place in the band just as much as any of us.
Like the
but,
Very
bassist.
true. Very true.
I feel like though, like once we do when shows do come back and we do a full album show, I feel like there's definitely a lot of moving around that we do as far as set list goes. Just so we can cater to like, you know, that live setting, you know, have a lot more ampier songs, get people moving. But yeah, definitely slower songs. But yeah.
Yeah, that well, that's good to hear. But I do think that one of my favorite, cause I've seen you guys a few times, and one of my favorite things is that I feel like there's like sometimes there's even some cover songs that kind of have become a bit, at least it feels like a tradition to do every now and then. Like I know every now and then you guys do Psycho Killer, and like
Story behind how we did that.
and I was just wondering, like, what I was actually gonna ask, like, what is like what's the story behind like the songs you choose for covers
Okay.
and like
Can
that?
I tell the Psycho Killer story because I feel really stupid?
Go for it, Nate.
So we were playing. I forgot what the name of the venue is. It was in Des Plaines.
It's the white building.
Yes, it's the white building, and Hannah started playing the bass line to Psycho Killers, and I just like started grooving. I didn't know what we were playing. there's
The entire time.
the entire time I'm going through the song just jamming out, and people were like moving to it and saying words. I'm like, people know this song. I have no clue what the hell is going on. So like the whole song, I finished it. I played it start to end, not knowing the whole time what we were playing until like after the set when we were packing up. I was like, yo, what did we play? What was that one song that we did? And
It was because people our cat had to tape down a cord for like a mic, and we like stopped the entire like show for that so they could tape it down, and everyone started chanting tape, 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 tape. So that's how it started.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
You know, and then we just kind of looked at each other, said fuck it, and then went into this.
Yeah, like I vividly remember, like I'm sitting there, I'm just like, oh yeah, you know, I like this song. And Jackson like turns to me and he's just like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, well, I love it when you guys do that song because you could tell that, I don't know, I find it fun when like you could tell when a band really likes the songs they're covering and they're not just doing it because they feel they have to do covers. Because I find a lot of times when you're playing a smaller venue, a lot of times you have to fit in some covers into your set just because you're bound to have people who may not even know anything of your material there. But I think that's pretty awesome how you guys how that came to be, because I don't know, it's just good when you have good chemistry like that. The fact that Nate was able to go with it and people just went with it. I think personally, I look forward to when there is shows again. Obviously, just because I want to see shows again, but just because I feel like the experience you get with a band, because like I've played live shows before too, and like I feel like when you're playing music with a band, it's different than when you're just jamming at like somebody's garage or in a studio, because I feel like you do need that like sort of engagement with the audience. And even on stage, like with band members too, I feel like it's just a totally different experience live than when you're just playing at at your house with like no audience or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Like absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess what I was wondering, and this is sort of a slightly different type of question, and it's sort of a broad question that anybody can answer, but like with the state of everything in the world being kind of crazy right now, from the virus to just had an election, everything's crazy. But what do you like? I know it's sort of a bit of a deep question, but like, what do you think the role? Like, do you think it's very important and crucial for smaller artists and for local artists to like continue making music and writing about all this stuff, even though they might not be able to play shows and like nobody might even hear their music? Do you think it's like crucial for these smaller artists to still be active in the music scene and not just like abandon it because there's no live shows or anything?
Yeah, because when people come back to it, which they eventually will, and nothing's there, that's gonna be like the biggest letdown ever.
Yeah, the music's still gonna exist. Like even if you put it out and nobody hears it, there's still time to get it going, maybe promote it, and then when people come back, they'll be like, "Can't believe we were sleeping on this."
Right. And like I think that it's very important for kids to stay creative. I don't think that the process has a beginning and an end. I just think that it's good that people are still writing and still making music, because I mean we never left, and I mean we put out our album in the middle of all of this, and I mean people are listening to it, they're enjoying it, and the least we can do is hope that it inspires more people to make music.
Oh, yeah, totally. And I feel like it's almost more important now for smaller and local bands to be putting out music, because I feel like sometimes a lot of these smaller bands, they focus so much on the live show that they never really get around to recording anything, or like they don't for a long time. And I feel like almost in a weird way, because of the shutdown and because of all that, it sort of forced these bands to get together to just record, because that's like their only real option at this point.
Yeah. It definitely gives a lot more time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It was nice. Like not nice, but it was nice to like, no school for a bit. The circumstances were terrible, but I mean, it it gave us a lot of open time to like make sure that the album was like polished and what we wanted it to be, because I feel like if it had been any other way, it could have been completely different, and there would have been a lot of different things in the album, and that maybe wouldn't have sounded as good or not as 100% how we wanted it, and it wouldn't have conveyed the message that it does now.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel like if there was sort of that pressure to continuously be playing shows throughout making the album, it may have caused you guys to rush it a little more if you guys felt like you had that rush of wanting to go play an album show in a weird way, because you can't. There's nothing holding you back from taking as long as you want. So that might be the only positive to come out of all of this, but even then, it's still crazy. And I guess one of the last things I wanted to talk about was just sort of lyrical stuff on the album, because I noticed that you guys have always sort of, and I know we kind of covered this a little earlier when talking about like New Year's resolution, but you guys have always had a fair amount of personal lyrics like that. But I do think there's a lot of songs on here that like even take it a step further with like, because I feel like the music even accompanies the emotions too a lot more, because of like how I was saying the dynamics and everything. And I guess like, if I know last time I interviewed you guys, I kind of brought this up a little bit, talking about like writing lyrics and emotional lyrics and everything. But do you find that have you guys felt like it's becoming more comfortable for you guys to express yourselves more upfront like that?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think it's definitely easier, because like at first it's not, so at first it wasn't like crazy hard, but I think when you first try to like put together like the words that like you're feeling or that like you're thinking, it's really hard to be able to be that vulnerable for people. And now the fact that with the EP we were that vulnerable, and people didn't like judge us or anything for like saying those things and stuff like that, it's made it significantly easier to like continue to put out stuff regarding like how we feel.
And then I know you mentioned Song 4 earlier. That song, so like I have a metal background, so like writing our style of music is kind of still new to me.
Yeah.
But I remember for that song, I had it was an outline of what I wanted like a song to be as far as like the subject matter. And I know I had sent some stuff over to Hannah, and she was able to really kind of like help the process and push it along of like filling in gaps, because it's still new to me writing this genre. So she was really able to help push that along, and it really came to like out how I would have hoped it would when I had first thought of the idea, because that song is very, very close to me, and I think that song came out really good. So I feel like as far as like personal stuff, I've broken out of my shell more with like what I'm comfortable with, like being in songs as far as like myself, stuff about me.
Yeah, I feel like that song, a song for, and even though I know you're saying that you come from a more metal background and it is more difficult, not difficult, but more of like a more new territory for you to write stuff of this genre. I don't know if it's subconscious or intentional, but I feel like there is like, it's not a metal song, but I do find elements of that in some of the structures of the songs, especially that one. Like, I feel like the way it's laid out and like the way the song is structured, like it just feels much more advanced than just like your basic like garage punk band or something. Like you could hear the other influences coming in, and I feel like a lot of that does come from more of that metal side. But I guess just overall, I feel like there's an overall really good consistency on the album. None of the songs to me felt like they were kind of just thrown together for the sake of being thrown together. Even I feel bad if I'm blanking on the title, but the one that's a bit more goofy with like,
Oh, Pants on Fire?
yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Like even that one, even though it is more satirical, it still fits the mood of the album. And it's not like, it doesn't just feel like you guys had to put another song in. And even if that is what happened, you guys did a great job. And I just feel like and just in general, I just feel like I was very impressed with how it turned out. So I'm glad about that.
Yeah, I think a lot of them have different sounds from each other, like a song for New Year's, Joyce, Pants on Fire, but they all have like similar meanings inside of them. Like the theme of the song relates to each other, but we just wanted to expand and play like a surf song, and I think it turned out good with the DB. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I myself like surf rock quite a bit.
No,
And
really?
so I know, right? Who would have known? But so I remember I like was like, hey guys, what do you guys feel about writing a surf song? And everyone was just like, I don't know about that one. And then so one day I like ended up showing the riff to like Hannah, and she's like, yo, actually, this is kind of sick.
It was embarrassing. The first thing I said was, "Yo, that sounds like Fiddler," in the middle of like my basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like Fiddler.
And then
That song we took the most, I think, on too. Like we took like a good like few practices to like lay everything out.
that is true. That is
Like,
true.
as far as the structure,
Yeah.
like, we like spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah, like I don't know. At first I was like, oh man, they're gonna like hate it because it's surf. And then it turned out to be like this crazy, weird, like garage surf punk thing. And it honestly, when shows come back, I think that's gonna be one of my like favorites to play.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, we're just CherryHead. We hate surf rock.
Well, I think one thing I find really fun about that song, and what I think is interesting too, and once again, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but like the way that the tracks are laid out too, like the track list itself on the album, I think kind of goes together well, because that song comes right after a song for, which is a very like deep, very emotional, very like you know, it's like very deep song, and then you follow it up with something like that, which I think is a kind of fun, because it's like you don't want to get the listener like too down sometimes. you
Too
want
sad.
you want to liven it up, and I think that was I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if that was intentional, but I thought that was a pretty clever choice to put it right there. Well, that's about, I think, all that I have. If you guys want to add anything, go ahead. But it's just great to have it. I'm sure it's great to have the album finally done and out, and I enjoy it. It seems like everybody that's heard it enjoys it. So I think it's I'm glad that it turned out the way it did.
Yeah, and then before we go, I just want to give some credits. Thank you, Kaylee, for taking the picture, and Aiden and Nathan for being on the cover. And then thank you, AJ, for being a great photographer, Nick for mastering it and mixing it and recording the entire thing, Charlie and Elliot for giving us the space. And if I'm missing anyone, I don't think I am, but
Tyler from Who Knows,
please tell me I'm not.
Tyler and Julia for being on.
Yes, Tyler and Julia for being on New Year's.
Yeah,
Kaylee for taking the album photo.
yeah, she said that.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. Also, wait,
Well, we're all slacking.
kind of like shameless plug. Our merch is
Oh,
gonna
no.
come out very soon. So anyone,
It's gonna come this week.
yeah, like this week. Some bumps in the road, but you know what? We're gonna get it out. For anyone who sees this and has merch, and they're like, "Where is it?" It's coming.
Yeah, and we're giving you like free stuff too. So
Yeah.
Well,
I'm putting my toenail clippings in there. No, I won't.
well, it's great to have you guys here again. This was fun. I'm glad that you guys finally have the album out, and I'm gonna put the link to your Spotify and to the album in the description of the video. And if do you guys want me to link anything else, like your Instagram or anything?
our
can put anything.
Bandcamp and our Instagram would be great.
All right, I'll do that. Well, I'm glad you guys did this, and I am going to end the video. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.